My name is Hamza Al-Fayed. I am 48 years old, a man of the law, and a defender of the faith. On October 12, 2023, I didn't just lose a high-profile case. I lost my life. I was in the middle of the most important closing argument of my career, pointing a trembling finger at a man I considered a traitor, an apostate who had left Islam for Christianity. I was demanding his destruction. And then, the gavel didn't bang, my heart did. For 17 minutes, I lay dead on the cold linoleum floor of a Chicago courtroom. No pulse, no breath, no brain activity. The bailiff started CPR while the judge screamed for a medic. I expected to see the fires of Jahannam awaiting the traitor I was prosecuting. Instead, I opened my eyes and looked into the face of the very God he was worshiping. I went down a prosecutor of Christians, but I came back as their defense attorney. This is my story, and I swear on everything I hold sacred that every word is true. But before I tell you what Jesus said to me that terrified me more than death itself, I have a small favor to ask. My granny, who is 85 years old and stubborn as a mule, told me that if I don't get 1,000 subscribers on this channel, she's going to tell everyone my embarrassing childhood nickname. Please save my dignity. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what city representing from? Granny is watching the comments, so help me out. I grew up believing that justice was black and white. I was a man who prided myself on logic, evidence, and the letter of the law. My appearance was my armor, my thick salt and pepper beard, my expensive tailored suits, my stern glare that could silence a room. I intimidated witnesses just by breathing. To me, Darius Corey wasn't just a defendant, he was a cancer in our community. I believed with every fiber of my being that Allah required his punishment. I had spent months building a bulletproof case to ensure he would be deported back to a country where his new faith was an automatic death sentence. I thought I was doing God's work. I had no idea that in less than 10 minutes, I would be begging that traitor for forgiveness. I thought I was the one holding the power in that courtroom. But as I took my last breath, I realized the man in handcuffs was the only one who was truly free, and I was about to find out why. In the cutthroat hallways of the Cook County Criminal Courts, I wasn't just known as a prosecutor, I was known as the closer. Defense attorneys hated seeing my name on the docket, and judges knew that my presence meant a long, exhausting battle. I wore my reputation like my bespoke Italian silk suits, immaculate, expensive, and terrifyingly efficient. My beard, thick, well-oiled, and peppered with distinguished gray, wasn't a hipster fashion statement. It was a flag of my identity, a symbol of my unshakable devotion in a secular world. I was a man of the West by profession, but a man of the East by conviction. Today's trial, however, wasn't about embezzlement or homicide. It was personal. Sitting at the defense table, looking small and defeated in a sweater that had seen better days, was Darius Corey. To the jury, he was a quiet, unassuming immigrant working as a mechanic. To me, he was a traitor of the highest order. Darius had committed the one sin I could not forgive. He had abandoned the Quran for the Bible. He had traded the dignity of Islam for the worship of a man on a cross. Of course, in an American courtroom, I couldn't prosecute him for apostasy. The Constitution protected his heresy, but it didn't protect his paperwork. I had spent months digging through his history until I found it. A technicality in his visa application from 12 years ago, a minor discrepancy regarding his initial sponsor. It was a flimsy legal thread, but I intended to weave it into a noose. My goal was simple: strip him of his status and deport him back to a regime where converting to Christianity carried a mandatory death penalty. I wasn't just seeking a conviction. I was legally arranging his execution, and I slept soundly knowing I was cleaning the community of his corruption. 30 minutes before opening statements, I retreated to the private restroom in the prosecutor's wing. I locked the door and removed my gold Rolex, placing it carefully on the marble vanity. I rolled up my sleeves and my pant legs, ignoring the absurdity of a high-powered attorney balancing his foot in a porcelain sink. I performed wudu, the ritual ablution. I washed my hands, my mouth, my face, and my arms, letting the cold water purify me for the task ahead. This wasn't just hygiene, it was spiritual armor. As the water dripped from my beard, I looked into the mirror and saw righteousness staring back. I didn't see a lawyer about to argue a motion. I saw a soldier of Allah about to strike down an infidel using the gavel as my sword. I dried myself, readjusted my tie, and whispered, Bismillah, in the name of God. I felt invincible, armed with the law of man, and I believed the will of God. I walked into that courtroom thinking I was the lion. I didn't know I was walking into the lion's den. Judge Loretta Hines sat high on the bench, peering over her spectacles like an eagle watching a mouse. She was a woman of stone and statute, known for her impatience with theatrics, but she gave me a wide berth. She knew when I stood up, the show was about to begin. She nodded at me, a silent command to proceed. I buttoned my jacket, smoothed my tie, and turned my predatory gaze toward the witness stand. Darius Corey sat there, hands folded politely on his lap. He didn't look like a criminal mastermind or a visa fraudster. He looked like a man waiting for a bus. That calm irritated me. A man facing deportation to a hostile regime should be sweating. He should be trembling. I marched toward him, letting the hard soles of my shoes echo against the floorboards, a rhythmic countdown to his destruction. Mr. Corey, I began, my voice low and dangerous. You claimed on your initial entry documents that you were fleeing persecution, yet records show you returned to your home country 3 times in 2015. Which is it? Were you running for your life, or were you simply a tourist exploiting the system? Darius looked me in the eye. His voice was soft, unshakably steady. I went back to bury my mother, sir. The risk was great, but the duty of a son is greater. Duty? I scoffed, turning to the jury with a theatrical smirk. You speak of duty? A man who abandoned his faith, his culture, and his people speaks of duty? You are a chameleon, Mr. Corey. You change your story just as easily as you changed your God. Objection, the defense attorney shouted. Relevance. Sustained, Judge Hines snapped. Stick to the visa, Mr. Al-Fayed. I waved a dismissive hand. I didn't need the question on the record. The jury had heard it. I leaned in close to Darius, invading his personal space, letting him smell the expensive oud oil I wore, a scent of the home he had betrayed. You have a history of fabrication. You lied to the State Department. You are a fraud, and today, the truth is catching up with you. Do you realize that when I win this case, you will be on a plane back to the very people you turned your back on? Do you understand what they do to apostates in your village? I wanted to see fear. I wanted to see him break, to see the regret in his eyes for leaving Islam. I wanted him to beg the court for mercy, so I could deny it. Instead, Darius took a deep breath. I am not afraid of death, Mr. Al-Fayed. My life belongs to Jesus Christ. Whether I live in Chicago or die in my village, I am already saved. Can you say the same? The silence in the courtroom was deafening. He wasn't defending himself. He was witnessing to me. My grip on the podium tightened until my knuckles turned white. I expected defiance. I expected anger. But as he looked at me, his eyes didn't hold hate. He looked at me with pity. Pity. That look made my blood boil, triggering the very event that would kill me. I stood up from the prosecutor's table, buttoning my suit jacket with a sharp snap that echoed like a pistol shot. The air in the courtroom was thick, heavy with the humidity of impending judgment. I walked to the center of the room, commanding the space. I didn't use notes. I didn't need them. My rage was the only script I required. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I began, my voice starting as a low rumble. We are not here today to debate religion. We are here to debate character. And the man sitting before you has none. I began to pace, my strides aggressive, stalking the line between the jury box and the defense table. I could feel the heat rising in my neck. That look of pity Darius had given me was still burning in my mind, a smoldering ember that ignited my entire being. Who was he to pity me? I was the successful one. I was the faithful one. I was the one holding the sword. He lied to get into this country. I shouted, my voice cracking like a whip. He lied to his family. He lied to his community. And now, he sits there wrapped in the false humility of his new faith, expecting you to reward his deception with citizenship. I spun around to face Darius. He hadn't moved. He was just watching me, his hands still folded, his face maddeningly peaceful. My heart gave a strange, violent thud against my ribs, a sensation like a heavy book being dropped flat on a table. I ignored it. It was just adrenaline. It was just the thrill of the hunt. "This man is not a refugee," I roared, pointing a trembling finger at his chest. "He is a fraud. He is a contagion." My beard shook with the force of my words. Sweat trickled down my temple, stinging my eyes, but I refused to wipe it away. The pressure in my chest intensified, tightening rapidly like a steel cable being winched around my sternum. My left arm went numb, the sensation vanishing from my fingertips to my shoulder in a split second. I tried to draw a breath to deliver my final sentence, but the air wouldn't come. It felt like the atmosphere had been sucked out of the room. The faces of the jury began to smear, turning into a watercolor blur of beige and gray. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights overhead became a deafening roar, drowning out the sound of my own thoughts. I stumbled forward, gripping the edge of the jury box to keep from falling. I needed to finish. I needed to say the word that would seal his fate. I looked at Darius one last time, my vision tunneling until he was the only thing I could see. I opened my mouth to say guilty, but the only thing that came out was my soul. Gravity turned against me. My knees, which had supported the weight of my arrogance for 48 years, suddenly liquefied. I didn't slump gracefully. I crashed. I pitched forward, and the side of my head collided with the solid oak of the prosecutor's table with a sickening crack that echoed louder than any gavel strike. I slid down the wood and hit the linoleum, my limbs tangled in an unnatural heap. For a moment, there was a silence so absolute it felt heavy. Then the world exploded. "Mr. Al-Fayed," Judge Hines shrieked, her voice stripping away all judicial decorum. "Bailiff, call 911. Get the medic. Now." I was staring at the underside of the table. I could see the gum stuck there by board attorneys years ago. I tried to push myself up, to straighten my tie, to apologize for the interruption, but my body had resigned. It was a terrifying disconnect. My mind was shouting commands, but my nerves had cut the phone lines. A crushing weight, like an elephant sitting on my chest, squeezed the last pocket of oxygen from my lungs. Heavy boots thundered across the floor. "He's not breathing, Your Honor. I can't find a pulse." Hands were tearing at my shirt. Expensive buttons popped and rolled away like loose change. I felt the rough hands of the bailiff interlocking over my sternum, preparing to force my heart to beat, but I felt no pain yet, only a cold, creeping darkness at the edges of my vision. In that split second, all my degrees, my money, and my pride meant nothing. Death didn't knock, it kicked the door in. If you are watching this and think you have time to get right with God later, you are gambling with eternity. Don't be a fool like I was. Subscribe to this channel to hear the truth that might save you, because tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. And if you think you're too busy to subscribe, tell me in the comments. What will you tell God when your clock stops? The shouting in the courtroom became muffled, like voices heard from underwater. "Stay with us, Hamza. Come on, breathe." Someone was crying. Was it my co-counsel? Or was it the man I had tried to destroy? The darkness swallowed the gum under the table, then the shoes of the bailiff, and finally, the very concept of up and down. The lights of the courtroom faded, but a new, terrifying light was beginning to dawn. The crushing weight on my chest vanished instantly. One moment, I was suffocating in a vice of pain. The next, I was weightless, buoyant, and completely pain-free. I felt a sensation of rising, like a bubble detached from the murky bottom of a lake, drifting effortlessly toward the surface. I floated upward until I hovered near the buzzing fluorescent lights, looking down at a scene that seemed both familiar and alien. Below me, the courtroom had dissolved into pandemonium. I saw a body sprawled on the linoleum, pale, mouth gaping, eyes fixed on nothingness. It took a moment to recognize the thick salt and pepper beard and the ruined Italian suit. That was me. That was Hamza Al-Fayed. The bailiff was straddling my chest, pumping with brutal, rhythmic force. I heard the sickening crunch of cartilage, my ribs snapping under his weight. I winced, not from physical sensation, but from the sheer indignity of seeing my composed, powerful vessel treated like a broken machine. Paramedics burst through the double doors, dragging a stretcher and a defibrillator, their voices cutting through the din with sharp, medical commands. No pulse. VFib. Charged to 200. Judge Hines was still banging her gavel, a rhythmic, panicked tempo that no one was listening to. But my attention was drawn away from the medical violence to the defense table. I looked for Darius Corey. I knew what I would see. I expected relief. I expected a smirk. I expected him to be high-fiving his lawyer, celebrating the divine intervention that had struck down his persecutor. My death was his ticket to freedom. My silence was his safety. Logic dictated that he should be the happiest man in the room. Instead, what I saw shattered my understanding of human nature. Darius was on his knees. In the middle of the chaos, he had dropped to the floor, ignoring his attorney's frantic attempts to pull him back to his seat. His hands were clasped so tightly his knuckles were white, and tears, genuine, streaming tears, were washing down his face. I drifted lower, compelled by a force I couldn't name, straining to hear him over the shouting of the EMTs. "Lord, have mercy," he was sobbing, his voice cracking with desperation. "Spare him, Jesus. Don't let him go without knowing you. Save his life, Lord. Please, give him another chance. Do not take him in his sin." I was stunned. I was suspended in the air, watching the man I had tried to destroy beg his God to save me. He wasn't praying for his freedom. He was praying for his enemy. He was pleading for the life of the wolf who had come to devour him. Why was he praying for me? I tried to kill him, and he was begging God to save me. That confusion followed me into the darkness. The frantic scene of the courtroom didn't fade away. It was ripped away. The ceiling, the lights, the screaming bailiff, and Darius on his knees. Everything vanished into a vacuum. I was no longer floating above my body. I was traveling. It felt like being pulled backward through a tunnel of velvet, a sensation of infinite speed without the wind. Then I stopped. I stood in a void. It wasn't the darkness of a room with the lights off. It was the darkness of existence before creation. Absolute. Silent. Heavy. My heart, or whatever consciousness I now possessed, began to hammer with a new kind of fear. I knew what was coming. Every Friday sermon, every lesson from my father, every verse I had memorized had prepared me for this moment. I was in Barzak, the barrier between worlds. I stiffened, waiting for the arrival of Munker and Naker, the two terrifying angels of the grave. I expected thunder. I expected to see their black faces and blue eyes, carrying the iron hammers with which they punish the wicked. I hurriedly rehearsed my answers in Arabic, my mind racing like a law student before the bar exam. Rabbi Allah, my Lord is Allah. Dini al-Islam, my religion is Islam. Nabi Muhammad, my prophet is Muhammad. I was ready to plead my case. I was ready to prove my piety. I waited for the interrogation. But the angels didn't come. The hammers didn't fall. Instead, the darkness began to tear apart. It didn't break from the outside. It was pierced from the center. A light appeared, a single point of brilliance that expanded rapidly, swallowing the void. It was brighter than any sun, yet my eyes didn't burn. It was a light that had substance, a light that felt like a liquid emotion washing over me. From within that radiance, a figure emerged. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The terror I felt expecting the angels was replaced by a sense of awe so crushing it forced me to my knees. Not out of fear, but out of an inability to stand in the presence of such absolute purity. The being before me radiated power that could unmake the universe, yet his presence carried the gentleness of a father reaching for a stumbling child. There was no scroll of deeds in his hand. There was no scale to weigh my sins. There was only him. He moved closer, and the light coalesced into features I could recognize. He didn't look like the pale depictions in the art I mocked. He looked like ancient days and forever new all at once. His eyes held the depth of oceans, and when he looked at me, I felt every layer of my soul being unzipped. He didn't need to ask who my Lord was. He didn't need to ask what my religion was. The truth was vibrating in the air between us. I knew that face. I had denied him my whole life, but my soul knew him instantly. I waited for the theological debate. My mind, trained in the intricate arguments of Sharia and Western law, prepared to defend the oneness of God against the concept of the Trinity. I expected him to pull out a scroll of scriptures or point to contradictions in my logic. But the being of light did not call a witness, nor did he cite a precedent. He simply opened my understanding. Hamza. His voice resonated, not in my ears, but in the center of my being, vibrating through every atom of my spirit. Why do you persecute me? The question stopped my heart. I stammered, my thoughts projecting loudly in the silence of the void. Persecute you? No, Lord. I was prosecuting a criminal. I was prosecuting Darius. I was defending the honor of God. He didn't answer with words. He answered with a vision. It was as if he presented Exhibit A in the court of eternity. The void around us transformed into a screen, replaying the last hour of my life in the courtroom. But this time, I didn't see it through my eyes. I saw it through his. I saw myself standing over Darius, my face twisted in a snarl of hatred, my finger pointing like a dagger. I looked like a monster, a creature consumed by a dark, smoky fire of pride. My righteousness looked like filth. Then I saw Darius. He sat quietly, surrounded by a soft, amber glow. When I attacked him with words of venom, he didn't return fire. I saw his spirit crying out, not for his own safety, but for my soul. Look at the evidence, Hamza, Jesus said gently. You hated him because he bore my image. You tried to crush him, but he was lifting you up. You thought you were fighting a war for God, but you were warring against love itself. The shame was hotter than any fire I had ever imagined. I realized then that my entire life, my prayers, my fasting, my legal victories, amounted to nothing in this light. I had been building a monument to my own ego and calling it faith. I was the one who was lost. I was the one who was spiritually dead. Jesus stepped closer, the light intensifying until it consumed my shame. He didn't strike me down. He didn't sentence me to the hell I deserved. He looked at me with a sorrowful, overwhelming compassion. I died for Darius, he said, his voice breaking with the weight of that sacrifice. I took his penalty so he could be free. And Hamza, I died for you too. My blood was shed for the prosecutor just as it was for the accused. Why do you reject the pardon I have already signed? I fell at his feet, not as a Muslim or a lawyer, but as a broken man. I begged to stay, but he gave me a new assignment. Go, he said. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command that rewrote the laws of physics. The peace of heaven was ripped away, replaced by a sensation of catastrophic velocity. I felt like a diver plummeting from the stratosphere, the air rushing past me until I slammed into the heavy, broken meat of my physical form. The impact was absolute. Pain, sharp and blinding, exploded in my chest. It felt as if someone had poured molten lead into my lungs. My eyes flew open, wide and terrified, staring up not at the face of God, but at the harsh, sterile tiles of a hospital ceiling. I tried to scream, to gasp, to inhale, but my throat was blocked. A thick plastic tube was jammed down my windpipe, gagging me, breathing for me. He's awake. Doctor, he's awake. The voice was shrill, panicked. I thrashed, my hands clawing at the sheets. Every movement sent jagged bolts of lightning through my torso. My ribs, broken by the bailiff's well-intentioned violence, grated against each other with a sickening friction. The beeping of the monitors accelerated into a frantic rhythm, matching the terror in my blood. A face loomed over me. It was a young resident, his eyes wide behind his glasses, looking at me as if I were a corpse that had decided to sit up during an autopsy. Mr. Al-Fayed, can you hear me? Blink twice if you can hear me. I blinked. I blinked until tears ran down my temples into the bandages wrapped tightly around my head, a souvenir from when my skull met the prosecutor's table. I reached up, my hand trembling uncontrollably, and gripped the doctor's scrub top. I needed the tube out. I needed to speak. The trial. Darius. The clock was ticking. Restrain him. He's trying to extubate. Nurses descended on me, pinning my arms to the rails. I fought them with a strength I didn't know I had, a strength born of desperate redemption. They didn't understand. They thought I was fighting death, but I was fighting for life, Darius's life. If I didn't get back to that courtroom, the machinery I had set in motion would crush an innocent man. The resident leaned close, his voice trembling. Mr. Al-Fayed, you suffered a massive cardiac arrest. You were down for 17 minutes. It's a miracle you have brain function. You need to lie still. I shook my head violently, my eyes bulging. No time, I screamed in my mind. I have to testify. I choked on the plastic, gagging, tears streaming down my face. I stopped fighting the nurses and started tapping frantically on the bed rail. Tap, tap, tap. I pointed at the tube, then at my mouth, pleading with my eyes. The doctor hesitated, then nodded to the nurse. Check his stats. If he's breathing over the vent, pull it. The sensation of the tube sliding out was wretched, a final invasion. But the moment air hit my raw vocal cords, I didn't ask for water. I didn't ask for my wife. I rasped out the only thing that mattered. The doctors said I needed rest. I told them I needed a lawyer. I had to stop what I started. I discharged myself against medical advice 48 hours later. My ribs felt like shattered glass grinding together with every step, and the bandage around my head was a stark white flag of my physical brokenness, but my spirit had never been more whole. I walked into the courtroom just as the defense was moving for a mistrial due to my incapacitation. The silence that fell over the room was heavier than the one in the morgue. Judge Hines dropped her pen. The jury stared as if a ghost had just walked in, which, in a way, one had. I didn't go to the prosecutor's table. I walked to the center of the aisle, ignoring the bailiff who had broken my ribs to save my life. "Mr. Al-Fayed?" Judge Hines stammered, her judicial mask slipping. "You should be in the ICU." "I have unfinished business, Your Honor," I rasped, my voice rough from the intubation. I turned to look at Darius. He wasn't looking at my bandages, he was looking at my eyes. He saw the change. He saw the light. "The state wishes to amend its closing argument," I announced, the room gasping collectively. "I stood here 2 days ago and demanded the destruction of this man based on the laws of this country. Today, I stand here to demand his exoneration based on the laws of a higher court." "Mr. Al-Fayed, are you having a medical episode?" Hines barked. Counsel approached the bench. "I am withdrawing all charges against Darius Khoury," I shouted, overriding her authority. The evidence I presented was malicious. The visa technicality was a weapon I forged out of hatred, not justice. This man is innocent. More than that, he is right. "One more word, and I will hold you in contempt," the judge screamed, slamming her gavel. "Then hold me in contempt," I roared back, clutching my aching chest. "Because I would rather be in contempt of this court than in contempt of God. I have seen the Supreme Judge, and he has ruled in favor of the defendant." Pandemonium erupted. The judge pointed a shaking finger at the bailiff. "Take him into custody. Now." As the bailiff twisted my arms behind my back, gentler this time, I didn't resist. I looked at Darius. He was weeping again, but this time, they were tears of brotherhood. I had lost everything in the span of 5 minutes. The Bar Association would strip my license. My family would disown me. My community would brand me an apostate, just as I had branded Darius. I lost my career, my reputation, and my community. But I found the truth. You have heard my testimony today. The evidence has been presented. The jury is out, and the jury is you. Will you accept the verdict of Jesus, or will you keep objecting until it's too late? Do not scroll past this. Subscribe and share this video. It acts as a witness for you. And if you choose to walk away, write in the comments, "I reject the evidence." Let that be on the record. The bailiff clicked the metal cuffs around my wrists, the cold steel biting into my skin. I looked at the judge, then at Darius, and finally up toward the ceiling where I had once floated. I stood in handcuffs, just like Darius. And for the first time in my life, I was truly free.